Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing my August TBR with you. Toward the beginning of the year, I kind of decided that I didn't really want to do TBRs anymore. I know I obviously wasn't making videos during that time, but just personally in my reading, I didn't really want to have one because they feel constricting. I always feel bad when I don't stick to them, but I am a mood reader, though I have to say I have been like in the last month, I kind of made a loose list of books that I wanted to read, and I have stuck to that pretty well. But I do like having a little bit of flexibility so that I can kind of pick up whatever I'm in the mood for. So initially I was like, I'm only gonna make this TBR 5 books so that way I can read these books and then read some other books. But then I was looking and I was like, wait, I have more than that I want to read. So anyway, my TBR ended up being longer than anticipated, but these are just like the books that are at the top of my pile. We'll see if I actually end up reading them. Ideally, I would love to, obviously. There actually are a couple in here too that I think I might try to squeeze in the last week of July, so we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it and let you know that I am on a fantasy kick. I didn't really read a lot of fantasy for like the whole beginning of the year because I just couldn't focus. I wasn't in that mindset, but ever since things have kind of calmed down, I'm back and I've been reading so many fantasy books, and just within the month of July, I have found so many books that are going to be my favorite books of the year. So that's been really exciting, and I want to continue riding that wave, riding that high, reading books that I've been really anticipating and that I know that I'm going to love, instead of picking up a romance that's going to be fun in the moment, but not something very memorable. So anyway, here we go for real this time. So first and foremost, one that I really think that I'm probably going to read in the last week of July is These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. This is the second book and the concluding book to the These Hollow Vows duology. I just loved the first book. Like, it ended up being one of my favorite books of last year, and I've been so highly anticipating this conclusion. I cannot even tell you the number of books, like the number of copies of this that I have pre-ordered. So it's finally here, it's finally in my possession, and I am just finishing up Jade Legacy, which, wow, and this is going to be my next book. And you know, just in case you don't know anything about these, this is a fantasy novel. It's set in a fae world, and we are following a character who goes into the fae realm in order to try to like save her sister, but then she ends up becoming completely enmeshed in the politics of this world, and there is like this war going on between these two different kingdoms, and she becomes like a very important player, and I just cannot wait to see how this story is going to conclude. Then I really want to read The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This one is one that I have been dying to read since last year. I have this super beautiful Illumicrate edition, and I really want to read it before they put the second book on pre-sale because I have a feeling I'm going to want to pick that up too, but I don't really know too much about it, so no spoilers. All I know is that we are following 6 main characters, and it is a very dark academia kind of fantasy world. All of them are the best within their field, and they're recruited by Atlas, and they are told that they have to live with each other for 1 year, and at the end of that year 5 of the 6 will be initiated into this society, and one of them will be eliminated. Wow. The next book that I really want to read is also a really pretty edition, and that is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I have the Fairy Loot edition here, which is the purple. It's actually like really pretty underneath the dust jacket as well. Love it. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. It is a fantasy story. It's an adult book, but it has like YA crossover appeal. And we're following a character who saves this prince that I think is like a little bit helpless. And by doing so, she catches the attention of the Sultan. And then the Sultan basically blackmails her into having to go and steal this legendary magical lamp because the Sultan believes that it can help make their land prosperous again. There's also like a bodyguard, I think, involved, and I'm very much looking forward to this one. I have been looking forward to it since I first heard about it, and I really have like very high expectations for it. I'm expecting to love it, and it's also the first in a series, so even though I'll have to be waiting a little while for the next one, I'm still very excited to give this one a go. I don't think that I can wait until closer to the sequel. But then a sequel that I did wait a little while to read is A Dance with the Fae Prince Prince by Elise Kova. This is the second book in the Married to Magic series. I really enjoyed the first one. That one was A Deal with the Elf King, and the third book, A Duel with the Vampire Lord, is coming out in August. So I want to read this one before that, and then I'll be ready to go into that one. Even though they are companions, you technically can read them in any order. I believe there are probably going to be cameos of the characters from the first book within this one, but they're not going to play heavily into the story because this is more of like a romance fantasy versus a political world building, high stakes, overarching story arc kind of thing. But I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think this is going to be just like a nice, light, casual, cozy kind of fantasy that I will pretty much devour. And I also just really love the covers of this series. I think that Elise Kova's cover artist was so good, and that is definitely what initially appealed to me when I was picking up the first book. But like I said, really enjoyed it, really looking forward to this one, and really looking forward to the third book, which I could potentially read this month too. Then I really want to read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I feel like T. Kingfisher has been just all over BookTube lately. Like all the videos that I've been watching, everyone just keeps talking about how much they love her and they love her books, and I need to get in on that. I need to understand. But this, of all of the books that she has published, this premise definitely appealed to me the most. This one seems like a dark fairy tale, and we are following a character who is going to try to like save her sister from, I think it's like an abusive relationship, but it's with the prince or king or something. And in order to do so, she has to gather like all of these impossible to get materials. And then after that, it's still going to be quite a challenge. But I do think that she teams up with some kind of fairy godmother, and like there might be a witch involved, and it just sounds like it's going to be very delightful. It's really short, so I think it's one that I'm going to kind of like inhale. And I also think that it's going to be a really good like transition book to get from summer to autumn, because if you can't tell, I'm like in autumn mode already. I think I actually have like a pumpkin behind me because I've been going to Home Goods and buying Halloween decorations. So like I'm ready for fall. I'm ready for cooler weather. We're like currently having a heat wave and it's the worst. And yeah, this just like screams like autumnal, like evil forest witch situation, and I'm ready. Then I feel like I have not been able to go anywhere without seeing this book. I think it's like really hard to see right now with the glare because I'm filming with natural light and I have no control over the sunlight coming in. So I think I'm actually not even gonna hold this. I'm just gonna put it down because it's like screwing up the white balance. But if you couldn't tell from that insanely washed out cover, I'm planning on reading Guild by Raven Kennedy, which is the first book in the Plated Prisoner series. It is another romance fantasy series, and it involves fairies, and I just cannot get enough of the fae. So I have high hopes for this one. I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this whole series. I have heard that the first book is not as good, like if you need to continue the series and then it gets better. So we'll see how I feel, but I have a feeling that it'll be one that I end up reading really quickly, and it'll be a good like kind of palate cleanser book between some larger fantasies that I have planned. And actually, speaking of larger fantasy, I don't have my copy near me. It is in a box somewhere behind me. Like literally this blanket is just covering boxes of books because we're still packed. So I do need to go through those, and I really want to read Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. I read the first book last August, so it feels like it's time to pick up the second one now. And I just recently got copies of Live Ship Traders trilogy, so I really want to finish out the Farseer trilogy, and then I can move on to Live Ship Traders, which I've heard just the best things about. That is also on my list, but I don't have my physical copy nearby. In all honesty, I'll probably read that one on ebook because I have the like really beautiful illustrated edition, and there's just no way that I am commuting carrying that book. Like it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna need something light, so. And then the final book on my TBR, which is one that I think I might try to sneak in next week as well, is The Indigo Spell by Rochelle Mead. This is the third book in the Bloodline series, and I am just so addicted. I love Vampire Academy so much, and also like who has seen that trailer? I cannot wait for September. I'm so ready for the series. But in the meantime, I've been reading the Bloodline series because I really miss that world, and we actually do get a lot of character cameos from Vampire Academy within this series. It also feels like it's a bit of a more adult series than Vampire Academy was. I think Vampire Academy, like the first 2 books are like kind of YA, and then it kind of like graduates up and definitely ages up, whereas Bloodlines feels older from the beginning. Even though we do get some young characters and they are like in a school setting, the main character that we're following is older, and then we're also following one of the main characters in Vampire Academy who is also older, but I won't spoil who that is just in case. So yeah, I have been devouring these. I've already read the first 2 books, so this is the 3rd book, and I definitely want to read this one. I also wouldn't be surprised if I either like finished out the series or at least read the 4th one too in August. So vampires. So actually, like looking at that, I definitely have a lot of fantasy going on, but I really have a very heavily faye and heavily vampire TBR, which is perfectly fine by me. That is everything that I'm planning on reading in August. I'm really excited about all of these books, and I'm really excited to be in the fantasy mood again. It's been really nice to like have the mindset to enjoy my favorite genre, so good things. So that's all that I have for this video. Let me know what you're planning on reading in August. Let me know if you've read anything that I've mentioned. You probably have, because I'm definitely a little late to the game on some of these books, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And that is all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!